Everybody, I'm back. Um, it's been a long time. I had a summer, and on the summer, I took a nutrition class online, and then I had an online class for my bridge into the master's program. It was really good. It was about, what did they call it? It was like, I don't know, it took you through the lifespan. It was 5 weeks, and each week you did a different age group, how to assess them and everything. It was really good. We had to do a lot of community research. I learned so much about my community. Some of it was quite disappointing. It's hard to believe that where I live has such poor access to community health. It's really greatly disappointing. So anyway, enough said about that. Then for the fall semester, I had Med-Surg. Med-Surg is huge. It's a lot of information. I had overnight clinicals at a small facility in town. It's a hospital, has an ER, so I spend time in the ER. I spend time in the ICU and then on the Med-Surg floors. Some of my other classmates at different facilities that were in the daytime got to go into the OR and they got to go to the cath lab. Um, but I think that they didn't get to go to ER like we did, but other groups did. So you never know with your clinical group what you're going to experience, but you're definitely going to get the Med-Surg experience, and it's really good. There's a lot of reading, um, but you're going to learn so much, and it's so great. I love the facility that I was at. Like I said, it was overnight, so there's some things that I didn't experience, like having to deal with family members, like I would get there on the Med-Surg floor. We would get there before visiting hours were over, and there's people on the floor. I'm like, why are they here? And they were like, oh yeah, that's fine. Um, but anyway, um, I learned a lot. Um, Everywhere I worked, I learned so much. It was a great experience. There were people who really hated certain areas and really loved other areas. I did like the ER a lot more than I expected. I was terrified going in, but I had some good advice from a nurse at work and I'll share because maybe it can help someone else. We hadn't learned IVs, we hadn't learned tubes, NG tubes, we hadn't learned trach care, chest tubes. There was so much we didn't know, and I was supposed to go in the ER the first 3 weeks of clinicals. And so this nurse said, Catherine, get the nurses in the ER to tell you what supplies they need, and you tell them I'll get the supplies because that way you've got it in your head. Oh, we're doing this procedure. I need these supplies. Then when you've learned it and you're checked off and you get to do it, you know what skills you want. I mean, not what skills, what supplies you want. And so you're not stressing over that part because that's second nature to you. Then you just focus on the procedure. So I hope that helps. Um, and then for class time, um, I had a little bit of anxiety. It started at the very beginning of the semester when I did not pass my drug calculations test. And I just completely fell apart. I cried for days. Funny story, really fast. I was so upset. We got our scores back like on maybe Friday, and I cried. Just I was just like, this is it. This is the end of it. If I can't pass the first time, my second time, how do I know I'm going to already be stressed and I'm not going to pass the second time? And we get 3 chances at it. I was so upset. I got up that Saturday morning. I'm watching stupid YouTube videos because I was just like, I don't even want to think about anything. So I'm mindlessly just going through. And my husband he's a mechanic and a machinist, kind of an engineer. Um, but he grew up in racing. So a lot of times he'll accidentally be in my YouTube looking at videos. So things will pop up. So this video popped up, Formula One drivers. First thing, I was really mean because I was watching it. I said, Formula One drivers are really kind of ugly guys. It's terrible of me. I can't believe it. But anyway, it led to a conversation because I was depressed. So we go to test drive cars. And we both were like, wow, this is a really great car, which was just the newer version of the car I already have, but it kind of got a really big time makeover. And we came home, we're eating lunch, and it was such a nice distraction to go off and do that. But my husband keeps looking at cars and he goes, the level of that car that you're interested in, this other dealership has it. Want to go drive it? And I was like, yes. So, and this all is because of the Formula One video I was watching. So we go, and my husband goes, okay, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna treat these guys right. He said, but they have to come out to us, and then we're actually gonna sit down with them. But I'm offering a hugely, like a really low. I'm gonna lowball the price. It's like, okay, I just want to drive the car. So we took the car for a drive. I totally loved it. I totally loved the car I had that we took there, and had no need to get rid of it. So we go, we sit down with the guy, and my husband gives them this price that's unbelievably low. It's lower than what we paid for the previous car. And he goes away. Of course, we're like, it's my husband said, how long do we have to sit here before we can go home? Because I need to go home and cry some more over nursing school. And the guy came back and he said, okay, we can do that. So the moral of the story is if you get depressed in nursing school, don't go car shopping because you're going to end up with a new car that you really don't need. But let me just say, I love it. Um, Even better than the other one. And I couldn't imagine liking a car better, but oh my gosh, I love this car. So, okay, I digress. Back to nursing school. I started off with anxiety over the stupid drug count test, and it was so hard. Um, so then we have exams, and I was not doing well on the exams. I just barely passed the first one. The second exam, I failed, but I think about 80% of us failed that test. So that didn't wasn't too bad, but I still just had this awful anxiety. And I kept meeting with the teachers. And then finally, before my next to the last test, one of my instructors said, Catherine, I think you've got anxiety and you need to deal with it somehow. You need to figure out how to address that anxiety. She said, you know the material, you are just having trouble. So I addressed the anxiety, and lo and behold, my last two tests were my highest grades. And so I know I could have done better in the class than I did, but I passed. And it wasn't because Med-Surg is so awful. It seriously is because of how I reacted to the stupid drug count test. But I love my car. So I wanted to show you how I did my notes when I did well on the test. One of our teachers kept stressing to do the notes this way, and I think I just couldn't focus enough to do it. But I still think I could have done fine because I did a lot of studying for those tests, just anxiety. Just if you have anxiety, I totally get you. And I'm so sorry. But I made it through. You can make it through too. So when you're reading the material, and you're absolutely going to have to read. I mean, there's some people who don't. There's one girl that never even looks at a book and she never studies and she gets A's and she's just gifted. And I am jealous, but I love her to death because she's super sweet. So when you're reading, read through the material and highlight, like pneumonia. What is it? What's the patho behind it? What are the signs and symptoms? What are the complications that can come from it? How is it diagnosed? How do you treat it? And highlight that stuff. Just really fast read through. You don't have to read every detail, but just look for those things when you're reading. And then make notes. So I would do the highlighting and then I would go back and make notes. There was another unit where I actually made the notes while I was reading because I was at work and I thought I could do both at the same time. So here's my notes on bacterial meningitis, and the black ink, that's the notes that I made while I was reading. And so there it is. What is it? Signs and symptoms, complications, how is it diagnosed, how is it treated, and goals. So that's what I wrote. And then everything in the colored ink is what I added on in lecture that the teacher would tell us. And of course, there was often a case study. And if there was anything from the case study, I would make notes and then extra stuff. So that's how I took notes. The goals that I have down here, our book would say, here's, the nursing goals. I think it's good to know because when you get to those test questions that are like, what is the most correct? It helps if you know what the goals of your treatment are, if you know what your goals with the patient are, then you know what is the most correct answer on the test. Take your time. Maybe I'll make a video about how I learned to take the test, but um, just remember your ABCs. ABC is super important, but there's more to it. And I don't want this video to be too long, so maybe I'll make another one. But with Med-Surg, you can do this. This really, I mean, taking the notes like this helps so much. Somebody in the class would actually take the PowerPoints and make them into notes. And I got really pressed for time because of work at one point, and so I printed up his, and then I would add the notes from class time, and that was a huge help. He would put them in a Dropbox that everybody could access, and it was fantastic. So if you have somebody in your class that does that, or maybe you could talk somebody into doing that, that'd be fantastic. I don't know what else he did in life. He's married, has a kid. Maybe he ignores them, but it was wonderful to have that. It was a great study tool for when I was pressed for time. But I would still go back and look in the book and compare things. So I made it through Med-Surg. My next semester starts with psych, and then I move on to OB and then peds. Um, so I'll try to make a video after each one. I don't know. I've got my Bridge to Masters class coming up too, and I want to be able to focus on everything. Psych is hard. At the end of psych is when I start my online class, and then, well, anyway, personal business. My son is coming in to town. He lives out of the country. So I'll be highly distracted, but he might think it's cool. He'll be like, let me hope you make a video, Mom, because he's like Mr. Techno savvy. Um, both of my sons are, even though they do two different things. But anyway, um, I'll try to do that. And maybe I'll make a video about how I learned to take the test. It was very helpful. There's a couple things that once I reviewed that in my brain, I was like, oh, if I had thought about this sooner, I could have. So I think I could have done better, but I passed, and I'm really proud of myself. And I learned so much um, about myself, how to work with people, how to work with patients. Med-Surg is like such a great clinical experience. I'm really looking forward. I'm not too sure about psych, but I wasn't too sure about ER, and I loved it. So I might get into psych and go, holy crap, I want to go there. But maybe I just fit in. I don't know. But I wish everybody luck. I hope this helps you get ready for Med-Surg. Don't go buying a car. Even though I love my car, that car would still exist when I finished nursing school. So don't go crazy like that. Don't be watching any Formula One videos because they're not very cute. Um, but you got this, and this is the year of the nurse, and we're going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited. I'm kind of excited. I feel like I'm back to myself. Like I haven't seen myself in a year and a half. So I'm excited to see how this semester goes. And I wish everyone out there the best of luck. If you have any questions, because maybe there's something more I could have told you. I can't think of off the top of my head for Med-Surg, but we've got this. And just remember, how is it treated? How's it diagnosed? Big one. How is it diagnosed? They're going to always ask you stuff like that. Um, Signs and symptoms. Oh my gosh, you've got this. Okay. Um, I can't think of anything else. So I guess I'm done. And I will be back soon. I'll tell you about psych. I'll tell you about test taking and anything else. Okay. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.